Matt is the creative director at the Crisis Prevention Institute, a professor at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, and a founding creative mentor at Islands of Brilliance, an organization that teaches graphic design to children on the autism spectrum. Known as the Big Friendly Giant, I don't know where that comes from. To his family and friends, he is also a graphic designer, giant, again, husband, uncle, photographer, coffee addict, foodie, juggler, friend, and all-around nice guy. So please welcome Matt Racine.
Let me just start by acknowledging I am incredibly nervous. My anxiety is high. I'm a person that tends to feel emotions in a really big, deep way. At some point in this, I'm probably going to cry. It might be awkward for you watching a giant cry on stage. But it's okay. We'll get through this together. I feel that you're with me.
Yeah.
So we'll do this together, right? 10 days ago, my father passed away unexpectedly. 5 days ago was his funeral, and last night, my husband and I flew back from Florida, and today, I'm here. So I've been crying a lot, I've been laughing a ton, usually both at the same time. And I joke about crying and feeling my emotions deeply, in a really big way, but that's what life is made up of, right? Interactions and emotions. I've spent much of my life being afraid to feel my emotions, maybe because of the intensity with which I feel them. But it's when I bottle up my emotions that I really find myself getting into trouble. When I try and deny the feelings, they build up and become toxic. Sometimes they blow up in fits of rage, and trust me, there's nothing friendly about a raging giant. But even more troublesome is when I don't allow myself to feel the sadness that lives within me. When the sadness is ignored, it just digs a hole deeper and deeper. And it quickly swallows me up. Before I even realize it, I've fallen so deep, I don't know how to get out. But it was when I finally learned to not be afraid of my emotions, the darkness, the depression, but to embrace it, to find comfort and creativity in it, to even see the beauty in it. That's when I began to live a full, creative, and successful life. No, I'm not a therapist or a doctor, and I can only speak of my own personal experience. And it hasn't been easy. Recovery is a long and ongoing process, one that started with decades of therapy and research, personal exploration, meditation, medication, education, and hard work. But I can say, at 40 years old, I feel like I'm living my life to the fullest. I've developed my own toolbox that allows me not to fight, but embrace the gifts I've been given. That's right, I've embraced the way I feel my emotions in a big, full way. I've embraced that every day I feel a little sadder than the average bear. And yes, I do look at these as gifts, for these are part of me. These are what make me the compassionate and creative person I am today. These are the parts of me that make me a good friend, boss, husband, family member, and member of our community. By embracing the depression, instead of trying to fight it, I figured out a way to move through it in the moment. Before this revelation, I would have ignored what was making me upset or sad, and it would have snowballed. I would never feel like I was being true to myself, or that anyone really knew me. I would think no one understood how I was feeling, and how could they? It was all bottled up and pushed off to the side. Today, I've learned that I need to feel the emotions, not just acknowledge them or what's happening. No, I need to move through them. And depending on what's going on or the severity of the crisis, I try to put healthy guidelines around the emotions I'm feeling. I'll often say to myself, all right, Matt, you have 30 minutes to be mad about this, and then you have to let it go. And I'll literally set a timer on my iPhone. Or I have this weekend to be sad, and cry, stay in bed, and feel all the feels. But then I need to come back and hold the reins again. It's almost like a depression vacation. But instead of going on vacation to escape my troubles, I take a direct flight to Depression Island. The key is, it can't be a one-way flight, only round trip for this vacation. I don't mean to sound flippant. This is serious, and it can be scary. But I have learned that my emotions are not a bad thing. They are not something I can ignore or hide. I am fortunate to have an amazing support system in place. What is important for me is to be open and communicate with those around me about what I'm feeling. I'll let my husband know that I'm not feeling all that great emotionally. Sometimes he'll even point it out before I realize it myself. While the responsibility lies with me, I will ask him to make sure that I don't sink too far into that depression and to hold me accountable to come back on that return flight. I've decided to live my life as openly as possible. Some people probably think that I share a little too much. Sure, it can be scary putting yourself out there. But as a gay kid, terrified that anyone would find out the truth about me, I lived my life locked in the closet for 21 years. And it would have been so helpful to have known that my guidance counselor in high school was also gay and happily partnered. To know that someone I respected so much was just like me, that would have been huge. So I decided that I would be an open book, and that maybe, without even knowing it, I would be an example for someone who was also struggling with who they are. Well, there's another closet that I've been living in for a much longer time. And it wasn't until 5 or so years ago that I had another coming out. This time, as someone who struggles with clinical depression and anxiety. We're so afraid to let people know about our mental illnesses. What will they think? Will I be accepted? Will they see me as weak? Will I still be able to get that promotion? Will my partner still find me attractive? I decided it was time to be open about the struggles I have, and you'd be amazed at how often I hear, "Oh yeah, me too." And suddenly I didn't feel so different and so alone. And maybe, for someone, I could be an example of living a successful and creative life by embracing my depression and anxiety. I realized that seeing a therapist and asking for help weren't signs of weakness. In fact, it was one of the strongest and bravest first steps a person can take. When people find out that I struggle with depression and anxiety, they're often surprised when they hear it. But you're one of the happiest, most positive people I know. And it's true, I've made my personal mission to spread positivity and joy into the world wherever I can. I've pushed through the anxiety and worry about what people might think. I've pushed myself way outside of my comfort zone time and time again. And each time, it gets a little bit easier and feels a little bit more natural. These aren't big, grand gestures. They're often very simple and small. Asking the person behind the cash register, "How's your day going?" And then being genuinely interested in the answer. Not just telling someone to have a nice day, but have a beautiful day. Taking a moment to tell a stranger that you really love the top they chose that day, especially if it was a bold choice. Or that they have a beautiful smile. Sure, you get a lot of strange looks, you're often ignored, but for those times that you connect, when you can see that person's day turn around in that very moment, trust me, it's all worth each awkward interaction. Almost every day, almost every day my dad would email the family an inspirational quote. It was a small and easy thing for him. But it began to change the way that I started each day. I looked forward to reading what he picked out for that day and looking at how it could apply to what was going on in my own life. I took that same idea of an inspirational quote and put my own creative spin on it. I decided to take one quote each week and artistically write it out on my office window, then take a picture and post it on Instagram. 141 posts or weeks later, my window wisdom quotes have been shared around the world. I believe that the world can be a better place if we all just had a little more compassion, kindness, love, and patience towards one another. And so I literally put those words across the bumper of my car, big and bold. Compassion, kindness, love, patience. There are so many ways we can spread positivity and change the world. And here's a little secret. I'm a bit selfish in all of it. Sure, I genuinely want to help others. I want to make them happy. But each time I see a spark in someone's eye, because I ask them how their day is going, or I get a thumbs up as a car passes by, each time I feel joy. I feel better. I feel fuller and happier. I do it just as much for myself as I do it for everyone else. And it's the best antidepressant I know of. It's magical. As a marketer and a creative person, I often work on branding for organizations and companies, not just their logos and taglines, but what is their mission? What is their guiding principle? What are their values? Last year I spent a bit of time working on my own personal brand. What would I put out there as my personal mission? What are my guiding principles? So here are the Big Friendly Giants' 9 guiding principles. Live beautifully. Love unconditionally. Listen ferociously. Seek curiously. Trust fearlessly. Always assume best intent. Give freely. Spread joy. And practice compassion. As for my mission, to always be patient with myself and others, to make the world a more compassionate place by spreading love and kindness to everyone I encounter. What do you stand for? How can you change the world? Because we all can. We just have to decide how we're going to do it. I'm not always successful, and it is aspirational and an ongoing process. But for me, all of this came from the decision to completely embrace who I am, living openly and sharing my experience with others. And so I thank each of you tonight for your time and your support, and big giant hugs to all of you.